Thanks again for tuning in to the Clive Barker Podcast, the only podcast dedicated to the imagination of Clive Barker. This is episode 171, where we talk about Clive Barker and Hellraiser news, and break down the results of the Duels of Blood All-cenobite tournament. Round 1 eliminations are over, and Round 2 is just beginning, and that's over at www.duelsofblood.com. So check that out, and we'll have a link in the show notes as well. And that was the dryer. Okay. Anyway, this episode is sponsored by Don Bertram's Celebrate Imagination. The Celebrate Imagination shop is dedicated to benefiting the Arts and Medicine program at Texas Children's Cancer Center. Up to 50% of the proceeds will support the program where artist Don Bertram volunteers monthly. So please join us in donating to the program at Texas Children's Cancer Center, and you can buy one of his awesome paintings or prints or one of his books. He's got children's books. I've got one of them for Joey, actually. It's really cool. So anyway, there's a link in the show notes and on the main website at clivebarkercast.com that will take you where you need to go to get one of his prints or art books and help out this wonderful program. Any friend of Clive Barker's is a friend of ours, and we thank him for his support. Welcome. This is episode 171 of the Clive Barker Podcast. This episode, we're going to be rounding out the end of round. We're going to be finishing up the end of round 1 for the Duels of Blood and go through Clive Barker news. And I'm Ryan.
And I'm Joe.
And I'm Rob.
Hey, so thanks for listening. I guess we'll start out. We'll go right into the Clive Barker news. There's just a little bit this time. But Hellraiser the Toll is out on Kindle now.
That's cool.
I thought that was really neat. I think... And this book I thought originally was going to be really limited, but it showed up on the hardcover showed up on Amazon, and then there's an SST Publications version coming out in the next few months, and now there's a Kindle version.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, the Kindle version was only like $3, I think, too.
Yeah.
So it's a good deal.
$2.99. It's kind of a short book, but it's got some intense moments in it. Between, of course, you may find that out from reading the synopsis, but it's got Kirsty and Pinhead. You know, everybody's favorite duo from Hellraiser. So yeah. Again, the tagline for this is "Before the Gospels, there was a first witness," and both Ryan and me did early advanced reviews about this book that you can read on our blog. And so if you're not into buying hardcovers, I think $2.99 for the Kindle version is an attractive deal.
Yeah, and for people that are on the fence about it, or like, oh, I don't know, Clive Barker didn't write it, it's like, yeah, it's just $3. Give it a shot, see if you like it.
Yep.
And this one was kind of welcome, interesting news, and it gives us a little more, and it gives us a little more hope about the Texas Frightmare weekend, about Clive coming, because he designed artwork for the Texas Frightmare weekend. So that it's like a poster, and there's a print of this and a T-shirt.
Right, and David Sharp of the Cinema Bluster podcast did an article on our blog about it, and it seems like this seems like more recent art by Clive Barker, because you can tell the style has changed a little bit.
Yeah,
and it definitely looks like more present artwork from the hands of Clive Barker. And here it is, Texas Frightmare weekend. You have the profile of this creature. And it seems like the face is tattooed with lots of intricate designs on it. And it looks pretty amazing.
Yeah, and Rob, we were talking a little earlier about ordering a T-shirt. I think I might want to do that too.
Yeah. They have the sizes up. You can get up the sizes up to, I think, 5X if you wanted to.
Wow.
I didn't know that was the size.
Yeah.
Looks like Vasti Moses can get one from Nightbreed.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah. So poster and T-shirt, I think, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That'd
Yeah,
be
there's
nice.
like they just took. There's another news article that we have where it's just they're selling a 8x5 by it's 8 point. What is it? 8x11 poster of this through Texas Frightmare Weekend 2.
Okay. Wow, that's pretty great. So yeah, Clive Barker will be a special guest at the 13th annual Texas Frightmare Weekend happening this May 4 through the 6th, 2018. This is going to be his first convention appearance in several years, I think. I mean, there's been some other conventions that he was scheduled to appear or announced to appear, but then at the end he kind of like health issues prevented him from doing that. So let's see. I mean, other guests of the event will be Ron Perlman, who you might remember from Hellboy and Sons of Anarchy. Some of the stars of the 2017 Stephen King's It. Matthew Lillard will be there as well from Scream.
Kane Hodder,
Tobin Bell from Saw, Brad Dourif from Child's Play,
And from
they're having
Lord of the Rings and all kinds of stuff.
and Dune, right?
Yeah.
Oh wait, he wasn't in Dune, was he?
Yeah, he was.
He
was. Okay, yeah. He's the Mentat. Yeah,
exactly.
And Stephen Weber from The Shining, as well as a lot more guests. So it's going to be cool. I mean, and also the Cenobite actors are going to be there, like Barbie Wilde, Nicholas Vince, Simon Banford.
Yeah.
Doug Bradley.
Yeah.
Doug Bradley, of course. Yeah.
Right, and Doug Bradley and Kevin Yeager will be there. Not for Hellraiser stuff, but hopefully we can see if we can talk to him about Hellraiser. It's a crapshoot, I guess, about whether we can get him to do that or not. We'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see. We'll have to start working on some questions to take with us.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the T-shirt sells for $23.95 at the TexasFrightmareWeekend.com website. So go check it out.
That'll be fun.
And no shipping. Pick up at event only. So that makes it a little more exclusive.
Oh.
So be there or be square.
Right. That's one less T-shirt we would have to bring. We would have to pack if we buy one.
Yeah.
Okay. That Dark Imaginer. That's like a non-fictional study of Clive Barker's work. Is going to be out in paperback.
Oh, cool. Okay, yeah. I remember this. Was this that weird academic book that the e-book was a lot more expensive than the hardcover? I think I remember something like this.
Yes.
The hardcover cost like $40 and the ebook cost like $70. It was something ridiculous like that. I don't know what they were thinking, but
I've never heard of that before.
It has that Clive Barker sculpture thing on the cover that was on Fangoria one year.
Yeah. Was it Fangoria or was it Rue Morgue? I forget.
Oh, I can't remember either.
Anyway, so this features this is released by Manchester University Press and is edited by, and this is a challenging name to read.
I know, I couldn't say it either.
I'm not familiar with this sort of name. Sorcha Ni Flynn. So
it's pretty good. I think you got it pretty close there.
Okay, so it's going to be an exploration into the literary, film, and visionary creations of one of the most brilliant artist minds of our time. It's 12 critical essays that delve deep into Barker's work to talk about his less-known novels, short stories, theme park designs, screen and comic book adaptations, and more. So, go check it out. I mean, I haven't read this book yet, and I'm looking at the Amazon UK order link. It says here that the paperback is going to be selling for $16.99 Great Britain pounds. I might just give it a chance because, I really enjoy this academic discussion of Clive Barker's work and stuff like, Gary Hoppenstand's The Books of Blood, and other stories. That's an amazing book to own.
I have it. I haven't read it yet.
Yeah, it's pretty good. And all the stuff that comes out, all the essays that come out from Phil and Sarah Stokes are also academic level analysis of his work. So that's always a treat to be able to read, not just listen to a bunch of nerds like us talk about things saying, oh, that's so cool and awesome, but actually have the tools to analyze it to a deeper level. Yeah.
And speaking of Phil and Sarah Stokes, they have shown us on one of their Facebook posts the new play script covers for Hunters in the Snow and Crazy Face. So those books must be imminent as far as like when you can order them. I'm sure it'll be soon.
They look pretty nice. I like the pictures they picked for the covers. That's very impressive work.
So Phil and Sarah, if you're out there listening and you have an idea, maybe let us know when those will be available to buy.
Yeah. So was this the first time that they announced them? Because I thought that they had already shown like images of the upcoming books to the point that we were actually thinking, are those books for order now or not? And then we noticed, oh, it's not for order yet. Remember that?
I think, yeah. They had a blog post on New Year's Day about those two, but I don't know if they had a picture back then.
Yeah,
I can't remember.
Well, I don't think I think the pictures are new. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Hunters in the Snow cover is really, really fascinating. It seems to depict this kind of snowy gorge, and the mountains actually have faces on them. So that's very impressive.
Yeah, that is really cool.
Yeah, and Crazy Face looks like a mystical clown covered in like lightning, which is over the top, and he's got juggling balls between his fingers. So. Looks very fantastic. Okay, so yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to this because even though we already know Crazy Face, we've never read The Hunters in the Snow. And was this the play that has Vampire Hunter hunting vampires? And I think Clive played the Vampire Hunter at one point. I remember seeing something like this on Shadows in Eden book.
Right, and it was briefly mentioned. There was a character called the Dutchman. And
right.
It was briefly mentioned in the book that came with the Scarlet Box, Hellraiser.
Yeah. Oh yeah, talking about the Forbidden. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's cool. I'm really excited about both of those. Last time I bought the set, and I'm gonna do that again. I think it'll be nice to have the complete collection when they're done.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna buy the set with this one too. They're affordable price. Very affordable, and you get a lot of cool instead of not just the plays, but you get a lot of cool extras included with them, like pictures and stuff like that from the actual plays that they did.
Production,
And the Clive Barker, real Clive Barker store is gone, so right now this is the only online Clive Barker store with new material on it. So
Right. So keep looking at the Clive Barker archive and all the products they're putting out. And if you want to listen to us talk about the Magician play script, don't forget to go back and listen to episode 167.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so that's the news. So the Duels of Blood ended, as we're recording this today is Saturday. This will be airing on Sunday morning along with the new round for the Duels of Blood, round 2 will start. But as we're recording this on Friday night at midnight, I think actually it was Thursday night at midnight, the round ended.
Right. First round, 64 Cenobites pit against each other. So what happened?
Yeah. So we'll kind of go through these and talk about them. There were some, to me, there were some disappointing results, some good ones. This very first one, Balberith versus the Karate Cowboys were neck and neck. But in the end, unfortunately, at least for some people, to me, unfortunately, the Karate Cowboys edged out Balberith, and I think she's a better character. I think maybe the artwork has something to do with it. I don't know.
Is that the first time the Cowboys have won?
Yes.
A match? Yes, that's the first time they've won a match.
Yeah, they
I have to say, I'm very, very surprised that. And maybe a little disappointed that the Karate Cowboys won against Balberith. Yeah. And this is a pair of characters that even Scott Derrickson himself apologized for putting in the movie at one point. So I don't know what you were thinking, people, but
I think I don't know. I mean, all I can imagine is somebody going, well, I like Hellraiser Inferno, and I don't know who that weird person with the glasses is.
Yeah.
Probably. That's all I can think of too.
That was not the most representative photo of Balberith we could have put in there. But the Librarian of Hell. I mean, I like her a lot more than the Kung Fu Cowboys. But they move on to the next stage.
And Balberith is introduced in our upcoming episode that we're going to be talking about Hellraiser, the comics 5 through 7. She gets introduced in issue 7. I think it was. Okay, so the next one, Dr. Chenard versus CD, and luckily this one went the way we had predicted.
Oh yeah,
Dr.
It was
Chenard,
a blowout.
Dr. Chenard won that with 83% of the votes.
The doctor is in.
Yeah. Yep. No more jokes about failed audio formats.
Yeah, well, CD was always a silly-looking Cenobite. I mean, I know some people may think of CD as being kind of funny-looking, and hey, I like CD. What's wrong with it? Well, he's
CD.
just not very interesting. He's CD,
He's
right?
CD, yeah.
It's just crazy.
Yeah.
I just think Hell's got better standards than they
I do, yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's imaginative. I'll give him that.
Yeah.
But all the Cenobites from Hellraiser 3 are a little silly looking. And CD most of all. I mean, yeah.
There was some article somewhere that I just saw where they called them, I forget. I think maybe it was somewhere in our news feed that there was an article where they called the Cenobites from Hellraiser 3 pseudo Cenobites.
Yeah, I've heard them that way. Yeah, several times.
I don't know what makes them, because pseudo just means false. I don't know what makes, I mean, they're real Cenobites, I thought. I mean, they Pinhead created them.
Yeah, he does tell Joey that they're handmade, a shadow of his former troops. Maybe that's what they mean when it's like, they're not real Cenobites. They weren't created by Leviathan.
Well, yeah, exactly. Leviathan didn't have anything to do with it.
Right. But hey, I mean, I like Dreamer. I kind of like J.P. Monroe, even though I think J.P. Monroe is way too over the top for a Cenobite. He needs to be more subdued. But Camera Head, it's just a master of the one-liner. Yeah. And CD doesn't even speak anything. He's just crazy. And Barbie, actually, I love the Barbie design, especially the barbed wire going in and out through the face and the way that he's represented. It's just the shaker full of gasoline. I don't think it worked for me that well.
Or it's supposed to be a Monte cocktail or something like that.
Yeah, Molotov cocktail. Yeah,
Molotov cocktail. Makes sounds like a CD player. Like he makes these little electronic sounds.
Yeah. It was like robotic, kind of robotic,
like RoboCop. Yeah,
yeah. Exactly. It sounded like RoboCop.
Yeah. Oh boy. Anyway, so Dr. Chenard wins the round and moves on to round 2. Yeah. And of course, that was expected. Even though Chenard also is a bit over the top as a Cenobite. I mean, he's not, like we mentioned the last episode, he's kind of just Dr. Chenard, but enhanced, right?
Yeah. Well, and I think time has been kind to Dr. Chenard. I mean, originally I was kind of upset with this character because he made Freddy Krueger puns and he effortlessly killed all the other Cenobites. I mean, that wasn't cool. But I think over time, the Hellraiser 2 has become more of a classic, and people have forgiven that part. At least I. And
Chenard didn't get overexposed throughout like 10 films, right? I mean, he had a chance to shine and then become an icon and then just getting thrown into that place of nostalgia, whereas Pinhead was just dragged throughout 10 whole 9 sequels to Hellraiser, and it's like at this point it's not even played by the same actor anymore. So anyway, the next matchup was between the Cenobite called Face and the Kirsty Pinhead, and
Pinhead. That one.
Two comic book Hellraiser characters from different generations. I don't know. I mean, I think Kirsty Pinhead is a more striking image. Face is, he kind of, The artwork for him kind of looks like he's just a guy with his face melting off or something. You can tell. I mean, we know that he's stapled like somebody else's face on top of his, but it's.
I like the inspired. I like the inspired nature of Face, though. I mean, in the comics that we're going to talk about the next episode, we see him like being this thespian of hell, and he actually sets up these elaborate productions with the tortured souls, and he puts them on a stage, and he like hangs a few off chains, and then has the other ones like perform. And I think he's a cool character in concept form. And Kirsty, I liked it because when Boom Studios had that issue, it was just the crystallization of something I think the fans always wanted to see. It's what if Pinhead and Kirsty, instead of fighting each other, ended up merging into a single entity, and I think it was interesting the way that they did it. Yeah. Even though there was this duality, there was this conflict between when Kirsty took the mantle of being the priestess of hell, it was just not in her. I don't think it was in her character, and I think she was trying to be a good character, and it conflicted with what the things that she had to do as a priestess of hell, right?
And she got to keep her old personality, whereas the Elliot Spencer Pinhead kind of was taken over by this spirit of Pinhead.
Right. And I want to say that some people complain about the end of Judgment, where Paul T. Taylor is stripped of his power and is left as a derelict, living on a refrigerator box in the streets of I don't know where they shot that movie. I used to know, but I forgot. But that happened to Pinhead in the Boom Studios, right? I mean, Doug Bradley, the Doug Bradley character, the Elliot Spencer character, I'm sorry. Yeah. He is stripped of his power, and he is dropped as this, normal human guy back in our world, and he's just desperately trying to get back to being Pinhead.
Yeah.
Right.
I know that Gary reads those comic books. I wouldn't be surprised maybe if he drew some inspiration from that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either. But and I thought that was a cool thing for the Elliot Spencer character in the Boom Studios too. And I saw that as what would happen to Paul T. Taylor as well. Instead of just like giving up or being like super like, no, they took my powers. I think he would just get super focused on becoming Pinhead again. And this time probably would take him less time because now he knows he doesn't have to learn about the box and all that stuff. He knows all that stuff. So now I could see him, narrowing his will to a focus and just do the best he could to become Pinhead again. So
yeah.
Maybe that would be a sequel idea for Judgment. I don't know.
And speaking of Pinhead, so classic Pinhead versus Chalkus, it was the next one, and Chalkus is the owl-like creature that was chained to Alastor in the Jihad comics. But classic Pinhead won. He had 65% of the votes. Which I thought it would be even higher margin, but Pinhead's going to move on, and Chalkus is going to stay behind, chained to Alastor.
Yeah. No surprise there, right? I mean, it's Pinhead. So the next matchup was I was interested in this one. I wanted to see who was going to win. It was between Skinless Julia and Barbie Cenobite. Yeah. So Claire Higgins versus Peter Atkins characters here. And Skinless Julia won with 82% of the votes, but Barbie still got a decent amount of votes. He got 73. Yeah. To a total of 416 for this matchup. I think that this volume we've been having more votes than the second one.
Yeah.
Yeah, because of the Hellraiser aspect. Yeah.
And Peter Atkins had even was even making jokes about this pairing. He's like,
he didn't vote. He didn't vote for himself.
Even I didn't vote for my character.
Sorry, Pete.
Yeah, and I reminded him that this was a random pairing, and we didn't choose it. It's really nice actually having these randomized, because then I feel like we're not influencing who's going to win by creating our own matchups.
Yeah. Sure, I agree. That was a good idea. But yeah, unfortunately, the Barbie Cenobite didn't square off against Julia. But again, hey Pete, if you're listening to this, Still love the Barbie Cenobite. I mean, it's one of my favorite. I even have the NECA figurine, where you can actually, like, he comes with a little shaker, I think, and comes with like a flame that you can stick in his mouth.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
That's one figure I never got. I always wanted to get.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's
a cool figurine. So, yeah. Sorry, Barbie, you're out of the race. But Skinless Julia makes it to the next round.
Okay, so next one, we've got Yama Vidatu from... I don't know if she's from other Hellraiser comics. I haven't seen her yet, but she was definitely in the Jihad series, and then versus the Assessor from Judgment. So
and it looks like she won. I mean, people weren't that happy about the Assessor. I guess it probably because the nature of the character is a little disgusting.
Yeah.
So yeah,
and
surprised
he didn't look very Cenobite like.
No. Well, he's not a Cenobite, right? I mean, he's not supposed to be a Cenobite. He belongs to a different
Stygian Inquisition. Yeah, but he didn't.
Right.
He didn't look like the others either. He just looked like a regular guy.
A regular guy with moobs.
Yeah.
Yeah, moobs. Yeah, you really had a nice sight of moobs.
Anyway, so he's like the sin eater, I think. He's like when the editor writes down the people's sins, then he comes in and he eats them and then pukes it all up for the jury, which is I think that kind of ticked a few people off the wrong way when they were watching Judgment, but he didn't make it.
Children's tears or something on the
right.
pages?
He did.
He would mix the paper up with the tears of children.
Yeah.
Well, that was when he was taking care of the sins of a guy who used to molest kids, right? That's what he did.
That particular.
Okay, so he probably doesn't do that every time then.
No.
Okay.
So the next one,
I kept an eye on that. He was winning for a while. Then I came back and let's Yada Vitu just took over.
Yeah.
Yada Vidad.
Well, he did get 180 votes against 235 for Yama Vidatu, so he did pretty well.
Yeah. It's a good showing.
Yeah.
The next one is also another pairing of a Hellraiser Judgment Cenobite versus a classic one from Bloodline.
Yeah. And it was also closer than I would have expected.
Oh, yeah.
And I like both of these characters.
Mm-hmm. So we had the Surgeon square off against Angelique from Bloodline. And Angelique took the vote with 60%, which, again, not terribly surprising because, Judgment is the last in a long line of sequels, and I think a lot of people still are on the fence about that movie. But everybody loves Angelique, played by the beautiful Valentina Vargas.
Yep. And then this one, unfortunately, wasn't close at all. I was really rooting and voting for Isaac. We've got Isaac from the Hellraiser Anthology Volume 2. So a little bit of an obscure and newer character versus Merkova. And who is a pinhead with a dog skull on her face. Yeah.
Merkova won, almost 200 votes, and poor Isaac only got 48 votes. I mean, he's just a little tiny demon trying to do the best he can, cleaning up hell.
Yeah.
So
he wouldn't be surprised if he were here. He would say, "Yep,
Yep.
That's the way
it goes." Yeah. Yeah, that's the way it goes.
And then talk about obscure Cenobites. The next one is kind of obscure, but she won. It was the sculptress from that story with her lips, which is a kind of an iconic story. I think, did this make it to the collected best Hellraiser stories? I'm not sure. In any case, it's a very, very interesting story. I think it one of the stories that best touches the themes of Hellraiser. There's a guy who's in hell and he's being tortured by this Cenobite, and he's in love with her, and he always wants to, he's always like hoping for the day when she comes and she tortures him some more. And then one day she comes and takes his lips and sticks them on another guy's mouth and then kisses those lips. And it turns out she was only using him for his body parts, which just makes his suffering all the more sweet. Anyway, so the sculptress won against Eshma Diva, and Eshma Diva looks like she looks like kind of a werewoman, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right.
Is she from? She's from the Jihad, right? From
And
that
she, I think she's a sister to Yama Vidatu.
oh, okay.
Or
there you
she's
go.
a sister to one of the other Cenobites that was in that regiment.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, and I think she was eaten by not Leroy. I said Leroy Gom last time, but it wasn't Leroy Gom. It was the
Vasti Moses.
Vasti Moses. Yeah, she cut him open, and then he just kind of sucked her up with his stomach.
That's so
nice.
So weird.
Yeah.
The next is a match that has two very, very similar Cenobites, right?
Yeah. It was funny when they got paired together. It's like, wow, I never would have thought that these two would look the same. They really do, because
they do.
Chatterer 2 has eyes where he didn't in Hellraiser 1, and his mouth looks the same.
So we got Chatterer from Hellraiser 2, or called Chatterer 2, versus Hunger from the comic books, from the Marvel comics.
Yeah.
And
Hunger kicks the crap out of him.
Yeah, I was surprised. Hunger got 76% of the votes, and Hunger is pretty charismatic. Shows up in a lot of stories in the Marvel comics, and
he's one of the more sadistic Cenobites out of all of them too.
He is, and he doesn't care. He takes whatever he wants, and he's always like has this kind of weird like grin on his face, very toothy grin, I would call.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to see Hunger rise from the ashes of the '90s comics and take this one.
Yeah. Yeah, and Nicholas Vince has got representation elsewhere in this, so he's doing all right. And we got the next one. We've got Plague from Paul Kane's Sherlock Holmes and the Servants of Hell versus Dreamer from Hellraiser 3, the Cigarette Cenobite.
Wow, this
I was glad to see Plague go on, because I like those Cenobites from
Servants of Hell.
Servants of Hell, yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of them didn't make it on, so I'm glad to see this one did.
You go, Paul. I mean that the fact that this drawing that was actually handmade by Paul Kane was enough to take this Cenobite to victory. It's a good testament to how much people love the book, and I really did love the book. And we talked about it with Paul Kane, and we reviewed the book. So if you want to find out more about that, just look it up on our blog.
Yeah. And then we've got Charun versus Winky Dink, who is also called Clown.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to talk about this in our next episode. But I hadn't read this Winky Dink story before, and now I've read it. This image might not be the most representative. It's like really stylized. He definitely looks like a Cenobite here. But in the story that we read, he just looked like a little clown.
Oh yeah, like Bozo the Clown.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna read that in like the number 7, I think, of the Hellraiser comics.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, this is a cooler representation from Mike Mignola's art. So I think it's a very iconic thing. I wish didn't they make this one into a poster, the Hellraiser poster book?
Yeah.
It was a rare poster book that came out for the Marvel Hellraiser comics.
Oh, I know he was one of the. This picture came from one of those
pinups.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Charon is just a mess of a character. I don't really understand what he's supposed to be. He's got these feathers and this giant beak. He looks more like an evolved Pokemon than an actual Cenobite. Right?
Yeah.
A little bit. Yeah. But yeah, Winky Dink, he moves on to the next round, and here comes Paul Taylor. I think he ended up being the most voted character in the whole bracket, right?
Oh, you're right. Yeah, he had 518 votes all by himself. So, thanks Paul T. Taylor for sharing.
He was promoting this too on his page.
Yeah.
So
and
that was cool.
Even the people that don't like Hellraiser Judgment, for the most part, don't fault Paul T. Taylor's performance.
Right. I would hope not, because I thought it was decent. I thought it was pretty good. Yeah,
it was good.
I liked it. Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they preface it with he's no Doug Bradley, which irritates him because it's like obviously
Right.
we're different people.
So Paul T. Taylor won against Lawrence Mortoff's Puzzle Guardian. Yeah. That was one of the producers of Hellraiser 3, I think. So
Right. Take pleasure in it.
yeah. So
he's the producer of that.
Yeah,
I think it was he fired Tony Randall.
Oh, did he really?
I think he was the one that fired him. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well.
Yeah.
I'm glad he lost then.
Yeah.
So next up is Atkins versus Zafan. Zafan.
Yeah.
Zafan.
So in a way, Peter Atkins has kind of moved on. Because this character's name, at least, was inspired by Peter Atkins, and he beat little Zafan, the little guy,
tiny Siamese pinhead. Yeah. So Atkins is the armorer of hell, and we're going to talk about his origin story in the next episode.
He's like the commando of hell.
Yeah.
Yes.
The Arnold Schwarzenegger character from Commando is like. Yeah, he's a badass.
He's the armorer, and they keep him around even though he's disrespectful to Leviathan.
Yeah,
he's chaotic.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I really like him.
He's like the Dominican of hell. He's like the dog of Leviathan, right?
Yeah.
Actually, that's what Dominican means. It's like the dog of the Lord.
Oh.
Yeah, it comes from Dominus Canis. So, little known thing. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So next up is Surgeon, right? Surgeon from Hellseeker, and the Chatterer from the first Hellraiser.
Yeah.
So who won?
Yeah, obviously, the Chatterer won by a huge margin.
Did take this one. Yes.
Yeah. So Nicholas Vince had another chance, and he's moving on to the next round. The Surgeon, really, all he does is kind of stand there and look scary, but he doesn't do anything, as far as I remember, right?
Yeah, I think he just, like you said, he just stands there. The first time he appears, is that Hellseeker? Yes, that is Hellseeker,
yes.
Right? Yeah.
Did he not choke?
Yeah.
He actually might have choked out one of the women's with a plastic bag over her head.
Oh yeah.
When they're
Tammy.
The character. Yeah, the character of
Tammy,
right?
Or something.
Yeah.
He's watching it through a camera. The character of that movie, the main character.
Right. Oh, that's right. Wow.
Oh, Trevor's boss, right?
Yeah.
Trevor's boss. Right, not Tammy. Yeah. I like his makeup though. I like his the makeup that they came up with for the Surgeon.
Yeah.
It's kind of like this sensory deprivation like helmet thing that he's got on.
Yeah.
And I think it would be extremely uncomfortable to have that thing put on your face. Yeah. But
that's the theme.
I mean, clearly.
Cenobites. Yeah.
Yep. And but you can't beat that. Yeah, you can't beat that Cheddar one. I mean, that just looks bloody and gory as hell. It's just total like scar tissue.
Yeah. And speaking of inferior Chatterers, we've got the Chatterer torso from Inferno. Versus Bright Eyes and the Voice from the comics.
Yeah, and Bright Eyes and the Voice actually made it through, which I thought was surprising, considering that they're just a short story in the Hellraiser comics. And
but they do show up, so they show up later, so they're recurring characters.
Yeah, and it reminds me of, in some ways, the idea of these like female twins in Hellraiser that also became a thing with the Wire twins,
right.
And so these two twins with Torso actually is a good pairing, I think.
Yeah.
So poor Chatterer Torso, he gets to fall down the stairs and get stomped at the bottom.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And we've got Alastor from Jihad versus the Fist, which is another Paul Kane, the Servants of Hell character. Yeah, Cenobite, which he's got a big fist for a head, and he didn't make it on. Alastor beat him by quite a bit.
Yeah.
Alas.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Sorry about that.
Yeah, and I was rooting for Fist, and I was voting for him, because Alastor is a jerk. I mean, he's the worst sniveling, complaining, backstabby kind of character.
Yeah, self-serving. Sure. Too bad, Paul. Your Cenobite didn't make it on this round, but you still have Plague that went through. So you're still in. The Servants of Hell are still in the race. So next up, the female Cenobite from Hellraiser 1, played by Grace Kirby, Clive's cousin, versus the Auditor from Hellraiser Judgment. And I'm curious that. I thought for sure that maybe the Auditor would get more votes, although I wasn't sure if it was going to win, and he didn't.
And as we were watching this over the past couple of weeks, the Auditor was in the lead for most of it. Yeah, and Grace Kirby, female Cenobite, pulled ahead at the end. Yeah,
well, that's kind of, I guess it's kind of expected. She's a classic Cenobite from the first movie, so people are going to vote for that. But the Auditor still got 181 votes, which is a pretty good turnout for Hellraiser Judgment, even though he didn't make it. Yeah. And I've been seeing all these new pictures that have been coming out about Hellraiser Judgment. Have you seen those, Rob? Where you have like behind-the-scenes photos of Hellraiser Judgment coming out?
What do they show? I've seen some where like
Bloody Disgusting or something like that. I've seen some.
No, I haven't recently. No.
Yeah. Where you see like Gary Tunnicliffe.
Is he in his costume directing?
He is in his costume directing. Yeah.
Okay, I've seen those then.
Yeah. Whoops, looks like something fell.
That was my guitar.
Oh no.
Okay.
Is everything okay?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, cool.
Sorry about that.
What guitar do you have?
An acoustic.
Okay. What model is
it? Austin acoustic.
Okay, cool. You'll have to come up and play some chords one day for the show.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So what was the next one?
We got
after that was
Spike. These are both really obscure characters, but we've got Spike versus Caesar. Spike being the character that was left out of Hellraiser Deader. He's got the big old spike through his head that you said last time looked like a baguette.
Yeah.
and Caesar is this big old mountainous Cenobite monster thing with a mouth on his stomach, and he's got no head. And they throw the blood that Isaac cleans up. They throw that into his mouth in a bag that's like this tick monster.
Oh.
So Caesar is
That's a pretty disgusting creature.
Yeah, Caesar is cool, and he won by a lot. So Caesar's going to be moving on to the next round, and Spike will just go bump into a wall somewhere, I guess.
So how big is that Caesar compared to Isaac? I mean,
God, yeah. I mean, Isaac is like it could fit in the palm of his hand.
Oh, okay. I'm just trying to picture how big he is.
Yeah, it's huge. He's like a kaiju.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and then we've got Gehenna versus the Wire Twins, and this one was shocking, and I put it down a little bit to our bad picture that we have here for the Wire Twins, because I thought that they would be a little more popular than they were.
Yeah, so Gehenna ended up winning versus the Wire Twins. I don't know. I'm going to chalk this up to the fact that Inferno is kind of a weird movie that a lot of fans seem to be on the fence about. You either love it or you hate it.
Yeah.
I hate it too.
I'm not super into it either.
Although the Wire Twins are the one thing that most people that don't like the movie can kind of grudgingly admit is not bad.
Yeah, like the underskin massage scene, I guess, with Joseph Thorne, the inspector. Sure, in Inferno.
But this picture of them up against a green screen looking at the camera is kind of lame. But everything I could find on Google Images was all like they had their back to the camera, and they're pushing Thorne up against the wall, and you just really couldn't get a good image of them.
Right. Well, it is what it is, and Gehenna took the victory for this one.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to see some of these like jihad characters actually moving forward to the round 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we've got Searcher from Hellraiser Anthology Volume 2 from the same story as Isaac. He's this big old, like, stone golem looking thing with these lights coming out of his eyes, and he kind of steps over the walls of the labyrinth looking for people who are trying to escape.
A very interesting concept.
Yeah, no, I like that.
Really cool. Versus the twins in
Bloodline.
Yeah, the two. Yeah. Right, they're the two cops that, like, oh, don't separate me from my brother.
And I like the design. I've always liked the design of those two characters. But they really, I think the Searchers are much more interesting. I voted for them.
I would say that the Searcher is an interesting addition to the mythology in that regard. From the Hellraiser Anthology book 2, right? Is that from the second book? Yeah.
Yeah.
And so in that sense, I think he adds more to expand the Hellraiser world than the twin Cenobites from Bloodline, which is an Alan Smithy film. And the characters that they're made out of, they're not terribly good characters. They're very paper thin security guards, and like you said, their death scene is kind of lame. But I like the design. I do like the design of their makeup.
Yeah.
They're like this weird, messed up infernal version of yin and yang, or like tragedy and comedy mask. So, but I'm glad that Hellraiser Anthology is moving on to the next round.
Yeah, I think the people, in the Hellraiser movies, if anybody would listen to the fans, people want stuff that shows us more about this mysterious hell that got set up in Hellbound. Mm-hmm. And most of the movies completely ignore it. Most of the sequels ignore it. And actually, I think Judgment was the first one in a long time that kind of gave us some kind of a glimpse of the inner workings of hell. I mean, maybe you don't like it, maybe you do, but at least they did that. I mean, at least they went back to it.
That's one of the redeeming factors of that movie. I think it tries to expand a little more with the Stygian Inquisition.
Yeah.
Next one, I'm sorry to say, I was hoping for a different outcome. It was The Engineer versus Pinocchio.
Yeah.
And I wanted Pinocchio to move forward, but it seems like people were more happy to take The Engineer to the next round, even though. The Engineer it's an interesting creature. I like it. I think it's very well made, but it doesn't really do a lot. Whereas the Pinocchio story was so entertaining for the 2 chapters that we got so far in the Hellraiser Anthology. And I don't know, it comes out of the mind of Clive Barker directly, and it's just such an interesting little character, even though it's a little bit of a little bit of, what should I call it, a comic relief in a way. Yeah. So I'm conflicted about this one. I wish Pinocchio could have made it to the next round.
I voted for The Engineer. I mean, I like Pinocchio. I think that those are funny, but for me, The Engineer is just too much of a classic Hellraiser character, and it was one of those moments where you're like, "What is going on?" You think you have an understanding of what's going on in the movie, and then this thing shows up.
Well, The Engineer chomps his way to round 2.
Yeah.
Occasionally punching the other guy in the face.
Right. And then speaking of weird monsters from Hellraiser 1, we've got the Puzzle Guardian in its skeletal dragon form, versus the Harry D'Amour Pinhead, which is not. I don't think that the Harry D'Amour Pinhead is a fan favorite at all.
I'm surprised it got so many votes.
Yeah,
so many votes.
Yeah.
Let's call him the Monocle Pinhead, because that's what he is. Monocle Pinhead. He did not make it, and I think at this point I was getting tired of the way that the Boom Comics were just using Pinhead's makeup or Pinhead's appearance as kind of just an overcoat that someone could just put on, and it's like, hey, look at me, now I'm Pinhead. And they would keep their same persona and everything. And I don't know. I always thought of Pinhead as being this sort of entity that occupied the bodies of certain people, but not necessarily, just be that person given a new rank and just keep their personality. When you think about it, in the comics, at least, that wasn't what it was like.
And I liked it when it happened to Kirsty because her story was sort of intertwined with the Cenobites, and if she goes that way, you think of this change as permanent. You don't think of them being able to come back and okay, now I'm back to my old self again. And you don't want this to happen to Harry D'Amour because he's in this story for now, but he's gonna move on and do other stuff, and you can't mutilate him like this.
Do you remember if we ever saw the Pinhead D'Amour have any sort of tattoos or any sort of like thing like that?
Oh, that's a good question. Yeah.
Yeah, because Harry D'Amour's supposed to have those tattoos that protect him, all the sigils and all that stuff. And I don't remember. It's been a while since I read these comics. I don't really remember if they ever showed those tattoos in any way. I think I'm missing a couple of comics, so I need to check up on that.
I don't remember if I don't know if they showed them either. Maybe they did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I remember I never read any of this, but I remember I looked up some pictures, and I didn't want to read any of the stuff when he showed him shooting a gun with when he was was he still a detective but just he looked like Pinhead?
He was Pinhead. He had taken up the mantle, I guess. And there was a character that was protected against the forces of hell. I think it was a recurring. What would it, the character from Lost Souls the one that was hired by the Vatican, the assassin.
Oh yeah, the Cankerist.
The Cankerist, right? So the Cankerist, I'm protected against the forces of hell, and Harry D'Amour got out his handgun and shot him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Looked pretty cheesy.
Classic. And then Leviathan was a milkman. So, like you said, too many cooks in the kitchen for that book. But anyway,
the story
bearing the lead.
Lost its way, I think.
Yeah, bearing the lead. The Puzzle Guardian won this round, and he's such an awesome character. And I'm glad that in the comic books for Marvel and Boom Studios, they brought back the idea of these like Puzzle Guardians that turn into these skeletal dragons and protect the cubes. So welcome addition to the Clive Barker mythos, and definitely a strong character for the next round. I don't think we ever had the Puzzle Guardian in any of the Duels of Blood, had we?
Yeah, we had.
Okay.
Yeah, I reused the image from the first round. Or from Volume 1.
Well, he's still doing pretty good. He got 308 votes, and he won with 60% of the votes. So.
And now in the what the hell?
Yeah, no. How did this happen?
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it. It's like overnight. It happened overnight. The jury was winning it pretty much the entire time. Yeah. And then it just happens overnight. I mean, he ended up beating him pretty good.
Yeah. So this is about, if you're listening, is the Pinhead from Revelations, the sort of puffy one that people make fun of and call him Great Value Pinhead and
Great Value.
Yeah. Versus the jury from Hellraiser Judgment. And the jury's not my favorite, but come on, they're clearly better than Revelations Pinhead.
Well, the thing is, we use the image of the jury from the original Judgment, not the actual Judgment movie that came out. But this is not really it was the jury taken from those images that Gary Tunick, the pitch, right? But anyway, I think people got the idea. So Pinhead won against the jury, and honestly, I'm baffled because
that's the biggest upset of the entire thing, I believe.
Yeah. It's like round. I know the jury doesn't do much. All they do is just stick their hands in the puke, and then they get like this. They get this spurt of blood, of warm blood, all over their bodies after the surgeon works his magic on the victims. But I thought they would still come out ahead of this Great Value Pinhead, but I guess not. I guess people are still fascinated by the idea of Pinhead, so they still voted for that.
Yeah, God.
Oh, God.
What was it?
But you think that's bad. The next one has Camera Head from Hellraiser 3 versus the Puzzle Guardian from Revelations.
Yeah. But at least this one's not an upset. I mean, I didn't want that stupid Puzzle Guardian from Revelations to win.
Right. I mean, just the difference in makeups is astonishing. Like, at least
Yeah.
Camerahead has some decent makeup on. He could even do the close-up thing on the camera thing on his side of his head,
Didn't he
whereas
shoot
the other
like
guys
lasers
just
out of his camera too?
no,
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 he just ejected out from his.
yeah. He just did an extreme close-up and went through some guy's head,
I
and
thought he
Yeah.
could shoot stuff and make it explode from his camera too.
he zooms in really, really hard, and all the TVs explode.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's what happened.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
the Puzzle Guardian from Revelations is just a guy who just rubbed some suit on his face and is sitting in some bar in
Yeah,
Tijuana.
no, that's what we were talking about. Just what all it looks like. Like you said, like I think it was last time we talked. It looks just like some guy that just rubbed some soot on his face.
Yeah.
Some, a little bit of dirt.
Yeah,
That's
and,
a bad makeup.
and it sort
Rich.
of belies this notion that that a person gets obsessed with finding the puzzle box, and eventually they find it. Right? These are just some stupid jerk punk kids, and he walks up to him in a bar and gives it to him.
Yeah, so there's no really like build up to that, right?
No.
That's what you're saying. There's
Other
no
than-
obsession.
Yeah, other than he accidentally killed a hooker, we think it's not
Yeah.
100% sure that he did it. He says he didn't remember or whatever. But
Right.
yeah, that movie makes me mad just thinking about it.
Yeah.
It's stupid.
It's not a very good movie, no. Next up, speaking of not a good movie, Hellworld, Bound 2. The only thing about Hellworld that has any redeeming factor for me is the fact that Lance Henriksen is in it, and
And the Cenobite designs aren't bad either.
the Cenobite designs aren't bad. So you have Bound 2. The first one was a female. The second Bound that appeared was a male. And he was squaring off against Madame Veronique from The Servants of Hell by Paul Kane. And guess what? Veronique won.
Yay.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Like,
It's 2 for the Servants of Hell.
I think that Paul Kane's fans have been like hitting the Duels of Blood page pretty hard,
Yeah.
because I think he did share it on his Facebook page. So thanks,
that
Paul,
was
for that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad to see her moving on. I don't really have any feelings one way or the other about Bound 2. So I'm happy to see this result.
Yep.
And next up, we've got the Chatterbeast from Bloodline, which is a very cool character, very cool monstrous design, versus the female Cenobite from Hellbound, which is the Barbie Wilds version of female. And Barbie Wilds female Cenobite won by quite a bit, which is good. This one I didn't know how it was going to turn out, because I think these are both cool Cenobite designs, but one of them is clearly, has a personality as an actress, and the other one is like a movie monster, so.
Yeah. So I think, a lot of people just love Barbie Wild, and that's,
Yeah.
Do any of you guys have the Chatterbeast figurine
No.
that came out from NECA?
I do.
Okay, cool. I think that there was an original kit made for the Chatterbeast first, before the NECA figurines. So there was one, if I recall, I think it was being sold by a guy called Ed Martinez. And then...
He was part of the Hellbound web.
Yeah, I think so. And then and then the same guy who did the sculpt for that, I think, ended up making the sculpt for the NECA figurine. So, yeah, I think this is a great design too. I mean, I just wish he had been used better in Bloodline, because at some point it looks like they didn't do a good job with the Chatterbeast in Bloodline. I think they could have made it a lot more intimidating and interesting, but. Yeah, but Barbie Wild, like you said, Ryan, you can't beat the charismatic personality of Barbie Wild's Cenobite. So, she makes it to the next round.
Yeah, and then we've got Pistonhead from Hellraiser 3, which is the J.P. Monroe one you had been talking about a little earlier, versus the Butcher from Hellraiser Judgment, and the Butcher kind of is like a vehicle for the surgeon.
Mm-hmm.
He rides around on his back underneath his cloak, I guess.
Right.
But yeah, Pistonhead won by a little bit, not by much. He had 57% of the votes. So J.P. Monroe moves on to the sticking his tongue out you know.
Relax, baby. It's better than
Oh
sex.
my god, I hate that. I hate that. I don't like that actor either.
So I always wanted to ask, what is that thing on his head? They call it piston head, but it's not like a motorcycle piston, right? It looks
No.
more like a tripod for a camera.
Yeah, it's weird, it's a machine and it's moving back and forth like a piston.
It's like
but
he's
you're
getting,
right, but it's more pokey or it's weird.
it's like he's getting skull fucked or something like that.
Yeah.
You know, that's the way I took it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, he's having some kind of like desire, and
Yeah.
the sexual desire is being plugged into him through his head.
Yeah. Really weird. But yeah, Pistonhead moves on. Okay, so in the next one we've got Stitch versus Leviathan. So Stitch is what movie? I should have written down what movie Stitch was from. I can't remember.
Hellseeker.
Hellseeker. Okay. Yeah, and you know, Stitch didn't stand much of a chance. You know.
Against the god.
Yeah.
You know, the boss, the big boss. You know.
Yeah, Leviathan is cool. I love the way they did that black light coming out of Leviathan, and when it hits you, it makes you remember all the bad things that have happened in your life.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So Leviathan makes it through. Not a surprise there.
Yeah.
Next up is Abigor versus Pseudo Pinhead from Revelations.
Yeah, this is
man.
another one. When I saw this, I was like, damn it.
There's some Revelations fan out there who's been like voting every 5 minutes to get these characters to move on to the next stage.
And Abigor was just creaming him the whole way up until the end.
Yeah.
And
It's like somebody planned to do that. They were just going to wait till the very end, and you know, I just don't get that. Why you would pick Pseudo Cinehead over that cool looking Cenobite?
Yeah, the only Cenobite that's worse than Revelations Pinhead is Pseudo Pinhead.
Yeah, and they both won.
God.
Great Value Pinhead and Signature Farms Pinhead.
or Velveeta Slices Pinhead.
Yeah, American cheese.
Yeah, they do look like cheese slices.
Oh yeah. Wow. Yeah. Kraft Punk Pinhead.
I've never really noticed that, how they look like little crash slices. Jeez.
So next up we have Glass from Servants of Hell, from Paul Kane's Servants of Hell, versus Butterball from Hellraiser 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And unfortunately for Paul Kane's character, Butterball won with 337 votes. So I bet Lori and Simon Bamford are super happy about this, I guess.
Yes, yeah. So Simon Bamford's Butterball moves on to round 2, which is, you know, that's to be expected. I mean, Glass is cool and everything, and he's kind of he's like the version of Pinhead from the Servants of Hell book.
Mm.
But Glass is cool, but Butterball is a classic, you know, one of the original 4.
What a turkey! It does look like a turkey.
Yeah.
When you look at the shape of the head, that totally looks like a turkey.
Like a turkey mounted on his shoulders there.
Or a giant greasy thumb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So next, the last one is Chatter 4 from Revelations versus Orno, one of the Cenobites from the Marvel comics. I think he's responsible for making new puzzles in Hell.
Yeah.
And puzzle guardians.
Creating guardians.
Yeah.
Which is that was a cool story, and we'll get into that in our next issue. But you know, I think this one redeems some of the ones that were like, what's going on? You know, this one made more sense to me. I was happy to see a good comic book character beat out a mediocre movie character.
It was a Revelations character, so
Yes. Yeah.
Orno won with 88% of the votes. Cheddar 4 only got 31 votes. And I'm happy if you made it all the way down to the bottom and you voted for this, then God bless you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to get easier over time as half of these characters keep getting eliminated. So, and that'll kind of lead us into the next round, which by the time you're listening to this, you'll be able to vote over at www.duelsofblood.com. But right now, as we're recording this, I've just randomized the new pairings, and we'll just kind of read through them really quickly here.
Sure.
We've got Dr. Chenard versus Veronique.
Okay.
We've got Caesar versus Gehenna.
Mm-hmm.
Merkova versus Pinhead. Sorry,
Oh.
Merkova.
That's interesting.
Searcher versus Puzzle Guardian. So I like that one. I think that'll be a good match.
Mm-hmm.
Orno versus Kirsty Pinhead. I think that's also a tough match. I don't know who's going to win that one. Angelique versus the Engineer. Also, that's another tough one, right? Because Angelique is a good character, but the Engineer is a classic from...
Yeah, it's going to be two strong characters against each other.
Yeah. Judgment Pinhead versus the Karate Cowboys. And Winky Dink the Clown versus Chatterer from Hellraiser 1. I think that one will probably go to the Chatterer.
Mm-hmm.
Pseudo Pinhead versus JP Monroe Pistonhead.
Wow.
Yeah.
Hunger.
It's like, would you rather drown to death or get burned alive? It's both of them are bad.
Yeah, but I think Pseudo Pinhead is worse.
Mm-hmm.
I
think so too. Yeah.
Hunger versus Yama Vidatu. I think Hunger is definitely a better comic character. If people, anybody who's read those comics will probably vote for Hunger. And then Great Value Pinhead from Revelations versus Barbie Wilde's female Cenobite.
Oh, he's not gonna make it that. No. After that one.
If there's any justice in this world,
he's good. Yeah, I'm hoping for a thrashing.
Yeah. Then
we'll see. That one Revelations fan out there probably needs to really work that clicking finger.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. And then we've got Leviathan versus the female Cenobite from Hellraiser 1. That'll be an interesting matchup. I don't know who's going to win that one. Atkins versus the Sculptress. That's also another tough match. Plague versus Skinless Julia. I mean, Plague made it this far. I don't really see him beating Skinless Julia. We've got Butterball versus Elastor. So I think especially with Lori, voting here, that Elastor is going to finally be out of this. And we've got Camera Head versus Bright Eyes in the Voice, and that's also kind of a tough match.
I think that movie Cenobites probably have a little bit of an advantage over comic characters, but that's not always the case, as we saw in this round. So we'll see what happens, and go ahead and vote. You can vote every 5 minutes. Go to duelsofblood.com, and let's see who comes out the winner in this year.
Yep. So Sunday the 25th I think, is that the 25th? Yeah, Sunday the 25th at 8 a.m. Alaska time is when voting starts, which is also when this episode airs. So by the time you're hearing this, you can go vote.
Let's see who's the last Cenobite standing.
Yeah. All right. And on the site, we just had one thing to look out for. There was a Deals of the Week, Rob, that you had posted. And I think that was where you could buy...
the Everville Special Edition?
Yeah, the Everville Special Edition. You found a site where you could get it for just $80.
Yeah. And,
yeah, I know. It's still a lot, but we've been conditioned to see like sub $100 Clive Barker books is a good deal, I guess.
Yeah.
That thing looks huge too. The case for it.
Yeah.
So it's being sold from Overlook Connection. I've never heard of this website before.
Yeah, neither.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool. It says here, on the borderland between this world and the world of quiddity, the sea of our dreams, sits Everville. For years it has lived in ignorance of the gleaming shore on which it lies. But its ignorance is not bliss. Opening the door between worlds, Clive Barker delivers his characters into the heart of the human mystery, into a place of revelation where the forces which have shaped our past and are ready to destroy our future are at work. So it's from the Gauntlet Press, 2018, and like you said, $80. It used to be $125, so that's a good deal.
At least they didn't say, like, some consider it to be a sequel to The Great and Secret Show or whatever it was that they said before. Do you remember that?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is a sequel. It's a direct sequel.
Yeah.
I love that the inside of the book, the bookends, on the inside cover, it looks amazing. It's got some paintings by Clive Barker. It's illustrated. I think the cover is also an amazing painting by Clive Barker.
Yeah. Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
It's also got I was gonna say, this guy Josh Boone is an afterword by Josh Boone. Isn't he trying to get a Great and Secret Show TV series off the ground? Isn't that the guy?
Oh,
yeah, that's right. Yeah, good. Yeah, good connecting there.
He's an American screenwriter and film director, and he directed and wrote Stuck in Love. So, and he also directed the film The Fault in Our Stars.
He's trying to do a version of The Stand.
Is he?
The Stand, yeah.
I'm looking that up right now. Yeah, it says here, Josh Boone and Owen King developing TV series adaptation of Clive Barker's The Great and Secret Show, but this is from 2016, so I don't know what point this is at. But that's cool that he's involved with this book. Maybe he'll give some insight about what drew him to the story.
Yeah, and if that thing's still even happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, in this podcast, having no beginning will have no end. Find the show notes for this episode and join the discussion over at www.clivebarkercast.com, where we have news and links to all the ways you can connect with us. You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and every other place you can find podcasts. The Clive Barker Podcast is an independent editorial podcast and news blog that is not affiliated with or under contract by Seraphim Inc. This is a labor of love by the fans for the fans.
Thanks for listening.